Hello and welcome to the May 2023 edition of Florida by the Numbers. I'm Mark Wilson, president of the Florida Chamber Foundation, and I'm here to give you an executive update on the metrics that matter to securing Florida's future. So let's dive right in. What has changed this month? Well, there have been many changes in Florida's economy this month, all tracked on the floridascorecard.org. Highlights include net new income migration numbers, a decrease in net new jobs needed by 2030 to 1.4 million, current labor market figures, an update to consumer sentiment, and changes in the housing market. Florida is still creating more than 1 in every 11 new U.S. jobs, and Florida leads the nation in new business startups. As we look at the changing metrics, please help us share the news that Florida leads America in Black-owned businesses, while we're number 2 in Hispanic-owned businesses and number 2 in women-owned businesses. As you've heard me say before, if Florida was a stock, I'd be buying all that I could. Let's get started with analyzing the newly released net income migration figures. This data comes from the IRS and it shows how money walks, literally. Florida saw an influx of $39.2 billion of net income in this latest release. That calculates to $4.48 million per hour, and that's every hour of every day, nights and weekends included. Taxpayers and earners that are fleeing New York were the largest source of Florida's influx, and that's $9.8 billion worth of income. Let's look at Florida's labor market. Employment now sits at over 9.7 million, with a gain of just over 363,000 jobs that have been added since April of 2022. This gain continues Florida's trend of year-over-year gains every month since April of 2021. Noted here, you can also see that Florida's monthly gain of 21,200 jobs added between March and April is roughly double the figure from last month. The 363,400 jobs created over the past year represents an annual growth rate of nearly 4%, with annual gains experienced across most industries. The information industry recorded a loss of 1,500 jobs over the year as the technology sector weathers some turbulence nationwide. Leisure and hospitality once again maintained its lead in seeing the largest raw and percentage gain over the past year as it continues its recovery from a steep pandemic decline. The professional and business services industry saw a significant increase this past month, leading the pack with a 0.7% growth. This is a nice turnaround from its negative 0.2% loss in March. 3 of the 8 industries experienced a decline last month. While the losses were mild, we'll continue to keep an eye on the numbers, especially in the context of a potential national recession in late 2023 or possibly early 2024. Shifting our focus to unemployment, the number of unemployed Floridians declined by 2,000 from March to April. Let's put this decline in unemployment in the context of the number of open jobs statewide. Currently, in Florida, for every 100 open jobs, there's only 61 Floridians looking for work. This gap continues to reflect that Florida's workforce needs are greater than the available workers. Looking at how this compares to the rest of the country, our team analyzed the open jobs data for the 10 most populous states in the U.S. Florida continues to have the lowest ratio of unemployed people to open jobs. While this challenge is not unique, the gap is greater than in Georgia, which currently has 74 unemployed people for every 100 open jobs. This is reflective of a similar labor market challenge across the country. Texas remains in the middle, with 91 people looking for work for every 100 open jobs. And lastly, New York with 124 unemployed for every 100 open jobs. Let's now take a look at how the residential housing market is performing. Single-family housing starts have increased, yet sales have decreased. Overall, both starts and sales are down significantly from where they were this time last year, signaling a housing market that continues to cool. Starts are down almost 18% from March of 2022 and single-family housing sales are down just over 17%. As you can see in the chart, the current 12-month rolling average has been on a steep decline over the past years, and even with a slight uptick, is now in the range of the May 2018 levels. Despite a decrease in sales and starts over the last year, the median single-family sales price remains high, while April's median sales price is up to $410,000 and is unchanged from this time last year. We note that median sales prices have increased 52% from February 2020 levels. The stability of prices, despite lower sales, increased days to contract, increased days to sale, and increased inventory is largely attributable to relatively high interest rates that are dampening consumer demand. Lastly, let's shift gears to consumer sentiment. Floridians' outlook on the economy, as measured by the consumer sentiment, saw a decline of 1 point from March. This marks the first drop in Florida consumer sentiment in 2023. The April consumer sentiment of 68.7 was a reflection of Floridians' outlook on the national economy, continued interest rate hikes, and national bank failures. Nationally, consumer sentiment increased by 1.5 points in April. The FloridaScorecard.org is updated regularly and continues to track the metrics discussed today. In addition to hundreds of other state and county metrics, the Florida Scorecard and our team's accompanying research on these metrics are made possible by the leadership of the Florida Chamber Foundation's community development partners. To stay up to date on the metrics that matter to securing the future of Florida as soon as they are released, there are a couple of ways you can stay connected. Follow @FloridaBTN on Twitter, where updated figures and accompanying analysis are tweeted instantly. Also, be sure to check the FloridaScorecard.org regularly. Updated metrics are added as soon as available to help Florida leaders lead. If you have any questions regarding the topics covered today or the work of the Florida Chamber Foundation, please reach out to our Director of Research, Dave Sobush, or any member of the Foundation team through the information on your screen. From everyone at the Florida Chamber and the Florida Chamber Foundation, thanks for tuning in for another update on the metrics that matter for Florida's journey to becoming a top 10 global economy by 2030. Join us again in June for another edition of Florida by the Numbers.